Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a noontime, lunchtime edition of the Metropolitan Report. I am Alfred Parsar Jr. Before we begin today's Metropolitan Report, go down below wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching on YouTube, wherever you're watching, make sure you follow us everywhere on every platform. On Facebook, Metropolitan Report. On X, Mets_report_pod. Instagram, the_Metropolitan_report, and on YouTube, Metropolitan Report Podcast. More importantly, make sure that you follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. When you subscribe to the YouTube, you get all types of content that we don't post anywhere else. Yes, we go live on Facebook. Yes, we go live on Twitch. However, it's on YouTube, sorry, where we give you the short clips, we give you the reels, we give you the highlights, we give you everything Metropolitan Report. Thank you everybody for your support. Shout outs to my guys, Drew Learned and G Money Stacks. Drew, before we get into the show, some pre-show comments here. Drew Learn says, "What's up, Alfred? Huge win last night." Yes, indeed, we're going to talk about it. Drew Learn says, "We finally broke the ice." G Money Stacks is very glad that Mets got the win, defeating Minnesota Twins 3-2. Thank goodness I don't have to hear too much of the skies falling, depressing music. Lindor left calf tightness. We're going to talk about all of that. All right, so first things first, here on the report, the Mets, losers of 12 consecutive games last night, go into game 2 of the 3-game series against the Minnesota Twins, the lowly Minnesota Twins, and they managed to win. I personally thought that this losing streak was going to go at least up to 15. If I was a betting man, I would have put my money on the fact that that losing streak would have went to 15 games. Whether it was the offense not hitting, whether it was the bullpen imploding, wasting starts from Freddie Peralta and Nolan McLean and Clay Holmes, or a bad start from Kodai Senga, a bad start from David Peterson. I truly thought that we would have got a 15-game losing streak. Nothing seemed to be going the Mets' way. And even in games where they were leading up until late in the game, we saw the last game of the Chicago Cubs series. Mets were up 1-0 the entire game till the 9th inning. Even Monday night, Nolan McLean, Mets up 3-0 in that game, and they come back to lose 5-3. So things were not bouncing the right way for the New York Mets. But let's talk about last night. Last night, Juan Soto returned to the lineup. More on him later. But Juan Soto returned to the lineup. The Mets sent Clay Holmes, who's having a good season by all things considered. Clay Holmes, not a part of the problem as far as the Mets record goes. Clay Holmes last night pitching a very decent game. He had a quality start. Clay Holmes on the year, including last night, he's pitched 5 games, record of 2-2, 2.10 ERA in 30 innings. Those are numbers you like to see. Anytime that you could get a starting pitcher whose ERA is under 3, preferably under 2.5, I will take it. But last night, Clay Holmes got the start. Clay Holmes went 7 innings, 7. I think the issue or the days of saying that we're going to question how long this guy can go because he's a converted closer into a starter, that's over. Clay Holmes, the second time this season he's gone 7 innings, only gave up 2 runs on 5 hits. He walked 1, struck out 3. Quality start, as you guys know, in baseball, or if you don't know, I'll tell you. There is a statistic called quality start where a starter could go 6 innings or more and give up 3 runs or less. That's considered a good start. So quality start from Clay Holmes. He threw 88 pitches, 56 of which were strikes, and he did a phenomenal job last night against the Minnesota Twins. Very, very good job. It just goes to show you that certain guys, despite being on this team, were not a part of the problem. And then we go to the Mets themselves on the offense wise. This Mets club winning yesterday 3-2, 1-run ball game. And we look at the box score. A couple of Mets did their thing. Francisco Lindor went 2 for 2 last night. More on him in a second. Juan Soto got on base twice last night. He went 1 for 3 with a walk. Soto has had at least one hit in every game he's played in this season. Mind you, this is a guy, didn't have any minor league rehab assignments while he was out. Didn't go to Brooklyn, didn't go to Binghamton, didn't go to Syracuse. Just took BP at the Cyclone Stadium, and he stayed sharp, and it shows. Bo Bichette 1 for 4. Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos, both with RBIs. Marcus Semien still showing some life, like he has a pulse. He went 1 for 4, and Tyrone Taylor 1 for 3. So the Mets hitting last night. They did score 3 runs on 8 hits. And in an encouraging sign. Now, do I feel that this is a good team? Maybe on paper, yeah, but one win is not going to turn it around. One win is not going to do it. I still believe that they should fire Carlos Mendoza. I still believe if this team misses the playoffs, that David Stearns has got to go. It's just any other manager in baseball. We'll put it this way. Any other manager in baseball, if they would have managed a team that lost 12 straight, they would have been fired. They would have been fired before the losing streak ended. Other managers of years past in other organizations have been fired for much less. If you think about it. And the fact that, and we covered it on our last edition of the report, but the fact that David Stearns looked into the camera or cameras when he was addressing the media in Chicago. Now, mind you, the losing streak was at 9 at this point, and said that Mendoza was doing a great job. It's still mind-boggling to me. Does it make any sense? Doesn't make any sense at all. Do I think Mendoza's doing a great job? No, and I'll tell you why. You go back to Monday's start. Nolan McLean pitched 5 shutout innings. Inning number 6 gives up a 2-run home run to Byron Buxton. Okay. You let him work his way out of the inning. At the time the home run was hit, there were 2 outs. He walked the previous batter, and Buxton hits the home run. Okay. I'm thinking, all right, after that 6th inning, that's McLean's last batter. He's done. He went 6. They put him back out there for a 7th inning. And this has been Carlos Mendoza's weakness as a manager all along. Carlos Mendoza does not know when to pull a pitcher. Carlos Mendoza will see signs of trouble. And we've talked about this before ad nauseum on the program. He will see signs of trouble. And instead of pulling the pitcher, getting somebody warmed up in the interim, he just stands there on the top step of the dugout with that stupid, clueless look on his face that he always makes. Now, if it were me that were managing, and again, I understand, I've never been a baseball manager at any level of the sport. I've played it, but I've never been a manager. But if it were me, and I've only had managerial experience in MLB The Show, folks, so take this with a grain of salt, if you will. But if it was me, the minute I see a guy starting to show signs of fatigue, I'm getting the bullpen warmed up. If we have a lead and all of a sudden he puts the other team in a position to either cut the lead or tie the game up or take the lead from us, I'm going to pull him before he gets a chance to do it. I understand you have to give your pitcher confidence. I understand you have to be able to give him a chance to work his way out of trouble. But when a guy is in the water drowning, sometimes you have to throw him a life raft and save him from himself. He'll tell you, yeah, I'd rather swim to shore. But sometimes you have to realize he can't swim to shore. Or in Mendoza's case, the guy's already sinking. Nolan McLean was sinking. He should have never been allowed to pitch past the sixth inning. What should have happened was a reliever should have came out for the seventh. And maybe we'd have a totally different ball game. And the Mets would have won on Monday and yesterday. But that's not what happened. Carlos Mendoza, and I've said this before, he has a lot to learn as a manager, especially in pitching scenarios. It's weird to me that Mendoza will watch a pitcher just struggle and then take him out long after the damage is already done. You look at managers of the past, guys who have won World Series, multiple World Series. Tony La Russa, Joe Torre, Sparky Anderson, even Dave Roberts, the Dodgers. Modern day example of this. They don't wait until their pitcher has imploded to take him out. You look at other great managers, Dusty Baker. These guys, they know when to pull the pitcher. They know when the pitcher is gassed. They know when the pitcher is gone as long as he could go, as far as he can go. Lou Piniella was the same. You got to know when, and I understand these are professional athletes. These guys want to go ahead and compete. But at the same time, you just got to know when to save guys from themselves. Nolan McLean should not have gone out for that seventh inning on Monday. He shouldn't. And this is what pains me about Mendoza. And then David Stearns will turn around and say that this guy is doing a great job. What great job? And then he says, well, yeah, with the best, he's doing his best with what he has to work with. Well, gee, I wonder if you would have just spent the money, if he would have more to work with. And that's another point of my contention of why this team lost 12 straight before they won one. So many guys on this team playing out of position. Bo Bichette, lifelong shortstop, playing third base. You sign Jorge Polanco, third baseman, say, oh yeah, he's going to play first base. That experiment ended after 2 games. He DH'd the rest. Then we have the musical chairs at first. Brett Beatty, who's a third baseman. Mark Vientos, the third baseman. Jared Young is an outfielder. And now he's hurt. And then while they were in Chicago, they had MJ Melendez taking reps at first base in pregame warmups. Munetaka Murakami was available in the offseason. So was Ryan O'Hearn. Mets didn't make either one an offer. Could have retained Pete Alonso. Granted, Pete's not having a hot bat right now, but by season's end, I'm pretty sure he'll have 30 homers and 100 RBI. He's proven all but 1 year of his career, not including COVID, that he can do it. But you didn't want that. You know what happens when you play guys out of position in and I play a lot of MLB The Show. In MLB The Show, for those of you who have never played it before, and even those of you who have, you can probably attest to this. When you play a guy in his secondary position, meaning it's a position he knows how to play, but it's not his primary position, he takes an attribute defensively. And then if you play a guy completely out of position in a position he's never played, his attributes go all the way down to zero. Zero fielding, zero reaction. But this is what we want to do, right? Right, David Stearns? Because with your Harvard education, and you sit down and do these lineups in your head and your computer, you know more than everybody else. I'd put all the money in the world in this statement I'm about to say, but the core of old, Alonso, Nimmo, McNeil, as bad as they have been in stretches over the last few years, that core would never lose 12 games in a row. Nope. Not at all. Let's go to the comments here before I move on. G Money Stacks. Do you think Ronnie Mauricio should come up depending on how long Francisco Lindor is going to be on the injury list? Bo Bichette played shortstop to fill in for Lindor. That was last night. Going to touch on that in a few. Drew Learn, my good friend, says, Alfred, I saw Mauricio hit 3 home runs in Syracuse the other day. Should we call him up? He hit one to the hotel across the street. By the way, you can see me on SNY Prospect Highlights. By the way, Drew Learn went to the Syracuse Mets game on Monday night. If you go on his YouTube page, he has a nice little vlog up. Great job, Drew. I am proud of you for that vlog. I implore everybody to go check it out, and I'll answer your question about Ronnie in a second. G Money Stack says there's been some talk about a possibility of Carlos Beltran being a manager for the Mets, but he doesn't have managerial experience. G Money Stacks, as far as that goes, in my honest opinion, Carlos Beltran, if he is going to get a managerial job, it would not be this year. You do not put a rookie manager into a situation like this. You just be setting him up for failure. To have him take over a dumpster fire team that's not going to go anywhere, and he doesn't get a fresh slate taken over mid-season. Also, Beltran unlikely to get hired because he is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. For that, he's going to have to take at least a weekend off. You cannot afford to have a manager go missing for any stretch of time in the big leagues. On top of that, the Mets on September 19th also retiring his number. So you would have to give him time off for that. I just don't see Beltran being an option this year. If Mendoza gets fired, either Kai Correa or Andy Green, the former Padres manager of years ago, he'll get the nod, I feel, because he's already in the organization as a consultant. So they've got a guy with managerial experience in the front office. I'm pretty sure if they told him, hey, take this over for a couple of months, he wouldn't say no. G Money Stacks also says Carlos Mendoza is not the one in charge of the everyday lineup. It's on David Stearns, aka Doogie Howser, boy genius using Moneyball tricks. I heard Moneyball is David Stearns' favorite movie of all time. His favorite baseball movie is Moneyball, except that he's not Billy Beane. He's not running the Oakland A's, and this is the Mets. Drew Learn says Mets AAA team is playing right now. Mauricio not in the lineup. Rumor is that he's on his way to New York for the game tonight. G Money Stacks. Luis Robert Jr. has been lousy with the bad throws. My good friend Fuqua Johnson. Love you, Alfred. Love you too, Fuqua. Appreciate you tuning in. So, another point of contention as we move on here. I said this in the offseason, and I'm going to go ahead and say it again. For those who are probably new to the channel or weren't watching at the time. But Devin Williams. Let's talk about Devo real quick. Devin Williams. I did not like this signing. Now, granted, hindsight is 2020. Nobody could have ever guessed that Edwin Diaz would be out for a few months this season. Nobody could have ever guessed that Edwin Diaz as a Dodger would have an ERA north of 10. Nobody could have guessed that. And I would have loved Edwin Diaz to come back. But Devin Williams, who was the Yankees closer to start the season last season and lost the job to Luke Weaver, Devin Williams is just not a guy I want on this team, at least not in the closing role. Devin Williams in 8 appearances so far this year, an 0-1 record with a 9.95 ERA. Let me repeat that. 8 games pitched, 6 1/3 innings, 0-1 with a 9.95 ERA. Now, Devin Williams imploded in the 9th inning, in the top of the 9th on Monday. He came into a 3-3 game and left the inning with the bases loaded and a score of 5-3. Austin Warren had to come out and strike out the rest of the side in order for the Mets to escape that inning with no further harm done. Devin Williams has not been the same since the wild card round of the 2024 MLB playoffs when Pete Alonso hit that home run that extended the Mets season that year. And I don't know what it was about that home run because, we've seen some of the best closers in the game give up homers. Mariano Rivera, John Smoltz, Rob Nen, Trevor Hoffman, just to name a few. But that home run seemingly broke Devin Williams. Devin Williams, and I said this in the offseason, and you can go and check it out a few months back on the YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube, I implore you to go to our YouTube channel. But I said it before, Devin Williams last season proved that he is no longer a closer. I also believe that he cannot close in New York, and he proved that last season. Devin Williams, last year as a Yankee, went 4-6 with a 4.79 ERA. He lost the closing job as a Yankee. He's in the same city, in the same market, dealing with the same media. And David Stearns figured, I know this guy. I'm the one who discovered him back in the Brewers organization. Let's bring him over because, we don't want to pay Edwin Diaz what he wants. And he's having an even worse start to the year this season than he had last season. And last season, he lost the job in the Bronx. 8 appearances. 0-1, 9.95 ERA. Each of his last 3 appearances have been horrid. Monday against Minnesota. He's not even officially credited with an inning pitched because he didn't get an out. And he gave up 2 runs on 1 hit and walked 3. He walked 3 batters and gave up 2 runs on a hit. That was on Monday. Saturday against the Cubs. 1 inning pitched. He gave up 1 run on 2 hits. He did get 3 strikeouts, but he blew the save. How apropos, Michael Conforto comes up, the ex-Met, and smacks Devin Williams to tie the game up. And then before that, against the Dodgers, earlier that week, a third of an inning pitched. 4 runs on 3 hits. He walked 1. He gave up the grand slam. He gave up a granny to Dalton Rushing. And then when asked, and this is why I believe Mendy should be fired, and this is what aggravates me and why this guy's a bad manager. Prior to yesterday's game, Carlos Mendoza was asked, is Devin Williams still your closer? And he said yes. This guy can't get out of a jam to save his life. He's not a high leverage pitcher. He proved it last year. He's in the same city, in the same market with the same media. Yes, there are a difference between Yankee fans and Met fans. I think Yankee fans are more obnoxious. I've said that many a times. But it's the same city. The only difference is he came over the bridge. Devin Williams does not belong in high leverage situations. The Devin Williams that was on the Brewers from 2020 up until the end of the regular season of 2024, I don't know where he is. I don't know where he's been, but this Devin Williams is not him. And I don't know if we're ever going to get the Brewers version of Devin Williams back. The former Rookie of the Year and the All-Star. It's the Devin Williams, his time as a closer should be over. 3 consecutive bad outings. One of which he only made 1 out in an inning. The other, he didn't get out of the inning. Devin Williams in the lexicon of closers of all time. He's a disgrace. And I don't know why this move was made, other than him being Stearns' boy. He proved last year he could not close in this city. And they saw his output last year from a year ago across town and figured, all right, let's put him in a change of scenery. It's not a change of scenery when you're in the same city. Oh, yeah, the Bronx and Queens are 2 totally different places. Even though the Yankees, they're a winning ball club and he couldn't hack it over there. Let's bring him here so he can mess up our organization and just be rotten. Devin Williams. And I'll say it again. Devin Williams. I don't mind him being on the team in the bullpen, but he should not. He absolutely should not be this team's closer. I don't even want him as a setup man. Not when we have Austin Warren. Not when we have Craig Kimbrell. Oh, and by the way, Craig Kimbrell, the same guy who they did not let make the team out of spring training. That guy who Richard Lovelady was chosen over. That guy who they said was washed up has no ERA in 4 appearances. But Devin Williams, I have no faith in him as a closer. If there's a high leverage situation, I would try my best to avoid him. I would never bring him in a high leverage situation. I would never bring in Devin Williams in a situation where it could be a save situation or the other team is within striking distance. Quite frankly, I'd only bring in Devin Williams in mop-up duty. Yeah, I said it, mop-up duty. Where either we're up big or we're down big. And either the game's out of reach on one side or we have nothing to play for but pride after a certain point. But I'm done with this whole Devin Williams thing. I don't want to see Devin Williams pitch in a high leverage situation ever again. If the Mets are up 8 runs and they're down 12 runs, whatever, I don't want to see Devin Williams in a save situation. And I don't want to see him in the top of the 9th or the bottom of the 9th, depending on if the Mets are on the road. I just don't want to see it. I'm over Devin Williams. I'm done with this guy. He is trash. Basura. Okay? Closer with a 9.95 ERA. What? You would have thought Devin Williams was a guy that they would have fast-tracked to the big leagues and wasn't ready. No, he don't got it. He don't got it no more. That Devin Williams that dominated in Milwaukee, that put Josh Hader out of town, mind you. And Josh Hader's having a heck of a start to his year this year. But that guy, Devin Williams, he don't got it no more. Similar to Kodai Senga, the luster's worn off. They know him now. That screwball that he likes to throw is completely hittable, and the only person getting screwed on that screwball is Devo himself. Like the guy is just a human pinata. Put his face on a donkey made of paper mache. He's a human pinata. I didn't like the signing when it first, and I said it. I said it. You could go back in the archives on the YouTube and look at the clip. I would have only liked the Devin Williams signing if Diaz came back because Williams would have been the setup man for Diaz. But as the closer, again, this is a guy who was across the bridge in the same city and proved to you that he could not close. He cannot close in this city. He's not a closing caliber pitcher anymore. I hate to say it because he's not old in his career, but it's over. He's past his prime. What more does this organization need to see to understand that Devin Williams just don't got it? He don't got it. And even his body language. You look at his body language when he pitches. He doesn't look confident. He always looks nervous. He has that look on his face like, yeah, I know I'm about to get rocked. His walks are sky high. Like I don't get what more needs to be shown from this guy. You look at his walk to strikeout ratio this season. He's got 6 walks to 11 strikeouts. But I mean, granted, he's only got one blown save. He's only got one blown save on the season, but he's been pitched a lot in non-save situations, so that's very misleading. But the guy, your closer should never have a 9.95 ERA. The closer is supposed to be your best arm in the bullpen, the one arm that strikes the fear into the opposing batters. And when opposing batters see Devin Williams, they're not fearful. Instead, they walk up to the plate smiling because they know that the chances of them extending the game are pretty good. Like I said, Devin Williams should not be a closer. I'd be completely okay if Mendy said, you know what, Luke Weaver is the closer now, or we're going to go by closer by committee and just play it by ear every game. I'd rather that than this puppet Mendoza defend Devin Williams every time. And there's nothing wrong with a closer by committee approach. Ride the hot hand out of the bullpen. Because Devin Williams, he's never had the hot hand at all in last year, this year or last year. He's always been the cold hand. So listen, I'm completely fine with Devin Williams being removed from the closer role. Let's go to the comments. G Money says it would be interesting to see Luke Weaver in the closer role. You should have seen after the New York Mets win talking with Steve Gelb's highlight. Well, yeah, Luke Weaver, it's a fact. He took the closing job from Devin Williams last year with the Yankees. It looks like Devin Williams doesn't have confidence in himself. Yeah, body language is no good. My good friend Clint Alexander says Devin Williams is a human pinata. Yeah, my favorite phrase. G Money says Devin Williams looks washed. Not sure if it's the right word to say. That's the only thing I could come up with to describe him. Let me fill you in on being washed when it comes to baseball players, including Devin Williams. Washed means a player not putting up the same performance on average they used to before. Yeah, he is washed. And is being washed based on age? No, being washed sometimes is based on age. Normally, you would say a guy who doesn't have what he used to, who's hung around for far too long, that's washed. A lot of people think that Craig Kimbrell, because he's approaching 38, they say he's washed. But Craig Kimbrell, one of the better pitcher statistics-wise out of that Mets bullpen, the man has no ERA. It is crazy to me that he had to fight for a job out of spring training, but Devin Williams was deemed the closer after he proved he couldn't close in the city anymore. But no, you could be washed and not be old. A couple of guys come to mind. Dontrell Willis, when he was a Marlin, later went on to be a Detroit Tiger. Um, he got washed real fast. Some guys, yeah, you don't need to be old to be deemed washed. Dontrell Willis comes to mind. Tim Lincecum toward the end of his career comes to mind. So yeah, you don't need to be old to be washed. But nonetheless, moving on to more serious matters here. Francisco Lindor left last night's game with a calf strain. Same the same injury that Juan Soto just came back from. And it didn't look good because in the post-game presser, Carlos Mendoza saw Lindor running the bases in the fourth inning, and he said he knew right away something was not right. Now, we don't know how bad the calf injury is. Mind you, it's today's Thursday, April 23rd, 2026. Right now it is 12:36 p.m. for those of you watching this live, and for those of you not, I'm just telling you for context. Um, yeah, Francisco Lindor, he's gonna have an MRI later today. He's not expected to be in the lineup today. He did manage to score the second run of the game, but after he slid and was deemed safe at home, you could tell he wasn't even running full speed, but it took him a while to get up. And then when he did get up, he got up very gingerly. He was replaced in the lineup. Bo Bichette moved over to short for the rest of the game. Brett Beatty played third. And the injury seems to come at a bad time because Francisco Lindor was just starting to come around. Lindor was just starting to hit his offensive stride. Like I said, every year, Francisco Lindor, he's a notoriously slow starter, but after about the first 2 months of the season, he gets it going. Lindor currently batting 226. He was under 200 for a long time, batting 226, two homers, five RBIs. And yeah, now he's got a commission. How long he's going to be hurt, we don't know because his strained calf looks worse than Soto's calf. At least Soto was running better when he had the strained calf, and Lindor is the faster of the two. But he's scheduled for MRI later today to determine the severity of the calf. Carlos Mendoza said, and I quote, Lindor is going to get an MRI tomorrow, and we see what we are dealing with. It sucks, and when you see a guy like Lindor, as tough as he is, I knew right away he was rounding third base, and I knew something wasn't right. We'll see what we have. So it sounds like Francisco Lindor is going on the injured list, and he could be gone about the length of the Mets' recent losing streak. Juan Soto had no part of that. Juan Soto was gone for 15 games with the same injury. He played in the game he got hurt, so obviously that doesn't count. But Juan Soto was gone with the same injury for 15 games. So I would expect Francisco Lindor to miss the exact same amount of time. How does this shape the roster, you may ask? Well, obviously Ronnie Mauricio, who Drew learned in the comments and G Money Stacks have brought up, he is obviously going to have to come up and get called up. It's naturally obvious. Mauricio is going to be the starting shortstop in Lindor's absence. When Mauricio and Vidal Brujan had that position battle in spring training for the backup shortstop, which neither of them won. Surprisingly, I thought it would have went to Ronnie. Ronnie, for what it's worth, went to Syracuse. He's been mashing in Syracuse, and I think he's deservedly earned this opportunity. Ronnie Mauricio, just like Lindor, a power hitting, switch hitting shortstop, shortstop by trade. Now, I had an initial thought to move Bo Bichette to shortstop and put Ronnie at third. However, Bichette is still learning third base. They brought him to the Mets to play third base. So I don't foresee taking Bo and making him give up his on-the-job training to have another natural shortstop and Ronnie play third base. I think Mauricio goes to short, Bo stays in at third. And yet again, this buys more time for Carson Benj as well, because when this Mets team is fully healthy, either Carson Benj or Tommy Pham, one of the two are going to be casualties. In Benj's case, he'll go down to Syracuse, and in Pham's case, he'll probably get DFA'd. But this Lindor injury comes at a bad time. Juan Soto just came back. Soto's first game back. The Mets win. And Lindor gets hurt, and now he's going to be gone for a prolonged period of time, which makes you wonder about Lindor. And we'll get on this for a second. Is the fact that he had a very short spring training the reason why Lindor has a soft tissue injury so early in the season? Usually these injuries pop up later on in the year, dog days of summer, July, August, maybe even September. I don't quite understand how two guys who are usually never hurt in Soto and Lindor get soft tissue injuries at this part of the year. But I'd rather these things happen early than down the stretch when the Mets are trying to compete for a playoff spot, if it even gets that far. But Lindor, you look at his injury history this year, misses a significant portion of spring training and the World Baseball Classic because he broke his hamate bone in his hand. Before that, he had off-season elbow surgery. He had his elbow cleaned up. So you got a guy who had an elbow surgery and a hand surgery before the season even started. Missed a significant amount of spring training. He didn't report to spring training until about he reported, but he didn't play in spring training action until the last week of spring training. So he only got in a handful of games, maybe about 3. It was a miracle he was good to go on opening day, and now he gets the calf strain. Citi Field for the rest of his homestand more than likely will not hear My Girl by the Temptations. So, I mean, it's just bad timing for Lindor, who was starting to heat up. He had the 3-run homer on Monday. He had an RBI and went 2 for 2 in yesterday's game. And now, as soon as he puts it in gear, he's now been derailed by an injury. Unfortunate, but again, Ronnie Mauricio, I would expect him to be the starting shortstop while Lindor is gone, and Bo Bichette's going to play third base. So, but yeah, Lindor is. If this injury would have happened 2 weeks ago, when Lindor was basically not even a factor in the lineup, I wouldn't be concerned. But I'll be concerned now because he was starting to. He put it in gear. We're starting to hit, and just bad timing. Speaking of guys who just came back from calf injuries, Juan Soto. Let's talk about Juan Soto. Prior to yesterday's game, Juan Soto had was talking to the media, and he was asked, were you in contact with and did you speak to your teammates while you were out? And he said no. He said no. Juan Soto said that the team was on the road. He stayed back. And if you look at that road trip, the team was in Los Angeles and then they were in Chicago before they came home. Juan Soto was back in New York. He was with the Cyclones taking BP almost every day and doing a running program. Will Salmon, again, Will Salmon's name pops up. But Will Salmon, a writer for The Athletic, put out an article last night during the Mets game to address the Juan Soto comments about him not speaking to his teammates while he was out hurt. And he spoke to 3 veteran Mets players. Now, these 3 players, the Athletic did not reveal their identities. The Athletic kept the identities of these 3 veterans anonymous. And I know what people are saying. Oh, he didn't speak to his teammates during the time he was out. Oh, that's poor leadership. Oh, he's a bad teammate. He's a bad guy. You see, he's not a leader. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, what do you mean they were on the road? You can't talk to them? Listen, Juan Soto's in a rehab program trying to get his calf back up to speed so he could come back as soon as possible to help get this team out of the slump. And they're in Los Angeles 3 hours behind. Juan Soto's probably sleeping before those Dodger games have ended. And plus, folks, what do you want Juan Soto to say? You want him to text Marcus Semien? Oh, why are you not making contact? You want him to text Bo Bichette? Oh, you still haven't learned third base. You want him to text Francisco Lindor? Why are you guys still losing? What is he supposed to say? Somebody out there tell me, what was Juan Soto supposed to say in a text message while this team was on the road getting their teeth kicked in by the Dodgers and the Cubs? What was he supposed to say? What would you have wanted him to say? Oh, better luck next game. Go out tomorrow and go get him. What else was he going to say? What do you want Juan to say? Oh, I watched tonight's game. You guys lost again. It's unacceptable. You got to do better. What was he supposed to say? I'll read a snippet from the Will Salmon article in The Athletic. For those of you, because again, The Athletic is a paid subscription service. I know not everybody might not have it. So when Soto was asked if he spoke to his teammates, his exact quote was, and I quote, "No, not at all. They've been on the road most of the time, so I haven't talked to them." Now, while that does come off cold, he does make an explanation. Again, it's not like they were on the road in Boston or they were at Yankee Stadium away or they were at the Nationals, the Phillies, whatever. They were on the West Coast and in the Midwest. And what people seem to forget is that during that Athletic series that the Mets got swept in at home, the last homestand, where Soto didn't play, he was in the dugout with the team every game of those 3 games. He was there for support. He didn't have to be there, but he was there. He was in the dugout during the Athletic series. So I don't want to hear anybody say poor leadership because this guy's hurt. He could be rehabbing or resting at home, and he's in the stadium, in the dugout, and in the clubhouse with the boys as they're losing. One veteran Mets player told Will Salmon, and I quote, "That approach is completely normal." It says here that the Athletic spoke with 3 Mets veteran players and granted them anonymity in exchange for candor. They all agreed. Completely normal. As the veteran players explained, when a player goes on the IL in baseball, he is essentially out of sight, out of mind. The injured player is not going through the moment, as one of the veterans put it. Therefore, they maintain a distance. Here's another quote from another veteran on the Mets that spoke to Will Salmon. "They're going through it, and you're not there. He was here every day and on the top step when we were home. On the road, he's taking care of business. What's he going to say in a text message anyway? When it comes down to it is, we've needed to do our jobs, and we haven't. If it's getting a lot of attention, then that's wrong and way overblown," said another Mets player. His own teammates were not bothered by his non-existent communication while he was hurt. He was hurt. And again, what is he supposed to say? Every last player in the Mets clubhouse on that road trip knew that they were not good. They were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. They were not doing their jobs. Did they need Juan Soto to come in and tell them that too? That would be like rubbing salt in the wound. Furthermore, Juan Soto had nothing to do with that losing streak. So how would it feel? I'm on the road. I'm in the midst of a 9, 10, 11, 12 game losing streak. And here comes the guy who's hurt, who's not going through it with us, texting me in a group chat with everybody else that I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm. Now that's bad. That's rubbing salt in the wound. The guy is hurt. He has to focus on getting back into shape. What more do you want? What is he supposed to say? Whether you're watching this live or you're watching this later on, please put it in the comments and tell me if you disagree with me. What was Juan Soto supposed to say? Tell me, what was he supposed to say? He was rightfully focused on getting healthy so he could come back to this losing baseball club and help them win a game, which he did last night because he went 1 for 3 with a walk. And again, Soto was not a part of the losing streak at all. He had the entire losing streak, he was on the IL. He had nothing to do with anything. Let that man focus on rehabbing. And the team was in LA. And Chicago is a time difference. The man stayed in New York. He stayed in New York. It's a time difference. LA is 3 hours behind. Chicago is in Central Time. Juan Soto has always been the type of guy. He's always been the type of guy. He likes to get adequate rest. He likes to put the right food in his body. And he's a true professional's professional. He is a true professional's professional. It was reported when he was on the Yankees 2 years ago, some guys would go out to the club. Juan Soto, as soon as the game's over, back in the hotel so he can study tape and sleep. And so what? He's an introvert. Not everybody's an extrovert. Some guys just like to be to themselves. In the case of everybody who's ever had a job in their lives, I'm pretty sure that you've used the phrase or lived by the adage, I'm not getting paid to talk to you right now. And I really want to know from everybody who thought that this Juan Soto not talking to his teammates while he was out story is something. What was he supposed to say? That's what I want. What was he supposed to say? The team is in a dumpster fire, a 12-game losing streak, the longest losing streak they've had dating back to 2002, and this guy's over here doing base running drills, trying to get up to speed and taking BP daily at the Brooklyn Cyclones complex, and you want him to stop what he's doing to get healthy so he can come help this team and want him to text his teammates? And his teammates have defended him. Not one, not two, but 3 of his teammates. I wish I knew who they were, but they were granted anonymity. But they have defended it. And like you said, when you're on the IL in baseball, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Also, if I'm going through something, and this can relate to anything in life, if I'm going through something and I don't hear from certain people, and I'm going through something really, really bad stretch of days, bad stretch of weeks, bad stretch of months, do I really want to hear from somebody who is not going to be able to add anything? What was Juan Soto supposed to say? Give them advice? What advice could he give them? He's not going through it. Any type of encouragement he would have gave them or advice he would have gave them probably would have been cliche. And here's my thing. By all accounts, Juan Soto is very well liked in the Mets organization. And for his teammates to say it is completely protocol for a guy on the IL to not reach out to his teammates. If they're defending that, then that's okay. It is completely okay. Think of it as a paid vacation. When you guys go on vacation from your jobs, do you reach out to your coworkers to see how they're doing while you're on vacation? No. So why slam this guy or make a story out of it? It's nothing. It's a nothing burger. What are you going to say next? When he had no communication with the team in the offseason, is he a bad guy because he didn't reach out to Lindor or Simeon or Nolan McLean? He didn't text them during the offseason, and now he's a bad guy for that too? Give me a break. 3 teammates said he did nothing wrong. We'll leave it at that. As we close out the Metropolitan Report for today, I want to go over the Mets schedule really quickly. Christian Scott, ladies and gentlemen, is starting for the Mets today as they finish up this 3-game set against the Twins. Christian Scott, a prospect from a couple of years ago. Christian Scott last pitched in the majors in 2024. That was his rookie year. Hasn't pitched since. He had Tommy John, missed all of last year. 9 career games, 0-3 with a 4.56 ERA, all coming in 2024, making his return to the big leagues tonight. He's going to go up against Joe Ryan, who is the ace of that Twins pitching staff. I hate to be pessimistic, but I feel like this is going to be a dub for the Twins. Then tomorrow, the Rockies come to town. They'll be in town for a 3-game set. They do not have a starter today. I mean, they don't have a starter announced for tomorrow. Freddie Peralta will be the starter for this Mets ball club tomorrow. Saturday, it'll be Kodai Senga, Lord help us all. 0-3, 8.83 ERA. Nolan McLean gets to finish the series on Sunday, 1-1 with a 2.28 ERA. Off day on Monday before the Mets host the Nationals for a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series. Please, I implore you to follow us. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscriptions on YouTube are completely FREE free. Right down below, subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you're not watching on YouTube, go over to YouTube. We got exclusive content on YouTube that you don't see anywhere else. We only go live on the other platforms. On YouTube is where you get the special presentations. You get the reels. You get the shorts. Instagram at _Metropolitan_Report. X Mets_Report_pod. And on Facebook at Metropolitan Report. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Alfred Parsar Jr. Mets Twins tonight, 7:10 p.m. For anybody who's going to be around Citi Field tomorrow and Saturday, you can catch me there. I'll be there both games tomorrow and Saturday against Colorado. So if you want to come grab a beer, come say hi, chop it up, talk shop, I'll be available and I'll be around. Folks, it's been another Metropolitan Report. I am Alfred Parsar Jr., and I've said everything that there is to say, and the only thing left to say is, let's go, Mets.